Let me separate two things here. TikTok, first of all, it sucks. It's the dumbest thing ever.
Biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
more alarming, some media outlets publish these things simply aren't true without checking facts first.
And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Hey everyone, it's Dave, December 1773, and as you can tell, this is a little different look going on here. We got like a little spaceship going on over here. But as always, I got Ryan with me, and we're going to need you to click the bottom right of the screen to subscribe. And today, we got crazy news. Ruth Bader Ginsburg has passed away, and that has left a vacant seat in the Supreme Court. Um, I don't even know. There's so much to go off of, so much to make of this. Obviously, you never. All life is important, and you never want to see somebody go. So you don't want to. I don't want to make it seem like we're celebrating the fact that she had passed away. It's obviously sad that a Supreme Court justice has left the court. But with that said, it's obviously a huge opportunity for Donald Trump, the Republicans, and people on the right to put in a court a justice that's going to abide by the Constitution here. So, without any further ado, here, Ryan, what do you think about obviously the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
I'll start by saying I didn't know too much about her other than she was a liberal justice. So when the news broke, obviously it is kind of sad, no matter what happens here politically, that a Supreme Court justice passes. I mean, they're courts for life, so it's kind of a monumental thing. And not to mention, it's during 2020, during this time, during an election year, during this. It could be a 6-3, a 5-3 decision on the Supreme Court, and give conservative majority. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of the political environment that is gonna spin from this. Everybody at December 1773, we kind of did a little chat about this earlier, and we're all in agreement that Trump should nominate before the election. And there's a lot of talking points out there right now that obviously Joe Biden made a speech about it and was commending her, and he has some family ties to her, so it's her dying wish apparently was to hold off nominating a judge until after the election.
Sure, it was.
Yeah, sounds convenient. And even if it is, I originally I did say that I think Trump should wait till after the election. There was a precedent. Apparently, they've referenced a few times that during the Obama administration, right before the Trump presidency, they blocked Obama's nomination of the Supreme Court. I heard that it was Mitch McConnell said that his defense was that we have a Republican majority. Obviously the people want something, aligning with Republican values.
Yeah.
And that's getting buried in the media to some extent. Either which way, it is Trump's authority. It is his power. It's his constitutional power. And why not? I mean, Nancy Pelosi apparently wants to push impeachment on it and everything, but I can see why the Trump campaign would push to have some kind of nomination or use this. At least I think at the bare minimum, they're going to use it as like a another political chip for him during his debates or during these ads that he's picked. Because I assume he's going to pick a woman.
That's what the rumor is.
Yeah, that would be good politics too. And why not? I mean, there's plenty of qualified women on that list apparently. So Yeah, I don't know, man. It will definitely be used politically, even though it shouldn't be political. It was only a couple days ago, and you know it's already happening. So, but you believe, right, that Trump should pick and should push through it. Maybe
Yeah.
not necessarily have him selected, but up for nomination and everything.
Yeah, I mean it's his game. He's the president. He should nominate the Supreme Court justice like he's supposed to. And if the Democrats don't like it, like the precedent that was set in 2016. Listen, they still don't have the Senate. So sorry that they didn't win more seats, I guess. But Trump gets the pick and Senate gets the call. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's a strong.
Yeah.
It's so strong way to look at it, honestly. Like it almost gets overshadowed, but it's not broken down that well, or that way, at least in the
Yeah.
media. It's just this, they're worried that Republicans are going to pick it and make it political. And
So Republicans have a strong opportunity here to swing the court a little bit. And I think something I'm worried about, and I don't know if Trump would do this or not, but Trump could hold off on his pick and use it as a tactic to get support for the election in 2020. I don't know if he would or would not do that, but he could very easily go, listen, I want to make a strong Supreme Court pick, but we got the election coming up, and you're gonna have to. I don't think he would lay it out like you better elect me or you're not going to get your Supreme Court pick, but he could in sense kind of make that happen where you better elect him or otherwise Joe Biden gets the Supreme Court pick.
yeah, it's going to be used. I can't wait for the first ad cut about it. Trump's 3 Supreme Court nominates justices. One of them's a woman. Like one's an immigrant. Like all these these crazy stories, kind of like the Tim Scott Cotton to Congress line.
Yeah.
Like they be publishing whatever bombshell fire that the Republicans have cooked up. And yeah, I mean, why not? Honestly, I mean, that's honestly one of the few things you probably get out of Republicans during the presidency is like justices that are going to align more with like a constitution and the original structure and all of that. But yeah, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, man. I don't know if you know this, but she's one of 4 women Supreme Court justices ever.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah,
incredible.
So obviously, we've talked about this when Kamala Harris was the Joe Biden VP pick. I don't like the idea of I'm going to pick a woman because it's a woman. Again, that doesn't mean that the person he picks isn't qualified by any means. I'd rather just see whoever's the best person's the best person. The best person gets the job. I don't like this idea of we're going to pick a woman because we need a woman on the Supreme Court. I'm not saying we do. I'm not saying we don't. My question to that is, do you think there's something to picking a woman, given the fact how these last 2, if I'm not mistaken, the last 2 Supreme Court picks were treated during their interviews, whatever you want to call them. I don't remember what they're called, but it's are Democrats going to come out and accuse this female Supreme Court pick of raping people and throwing these crazy parties in college and God forbid drinking a beer? How are they going to play that if it is a woman that gets the pick?
Well, I think the Republicans, honestly, I agree with you. Obviously, merit over any special list that you can pick of gender or religion or whatever. But I think, honestly, they're going to pick a woman, but they should. It will get rid of all of that stigma that, either it be the trouble or ripping through that person's life like they have with Kavanaugh, for example. But, yeah, it would remove all that. I mean, what can you say against her? If she is like I heard there's a Cuban woman. So if we get a Cuban, woman, well, you can't pull race and you can't pull gender. So it will make it about the issues. Maybe that's what we need to hear. Maybe it will be a substantive argument. But the Democrats obviously don't want to run on that premise because their entire DNC speech has been that they're not Donald Trump.
Yeah, and it seems like the way Democrats campaign, it always seems to be about, I don't know, just this division that, it's always about race. It's always, separating black people and white people and Hispanic people, and it, I don't know. It seems like if you just put up a black woman as your nomination, um, they got nothing to go on because the last thing they want to talk about is substance.
Yeah, I mean that's where the rubber meets the road, right? Is the issues and what they're going to vote on, or their voting record, not necessarily their political slogan or their campaign or whoever endorses them. That's all, water. Yeah, they should, honestly, and you know, it's another way to win suburban women too. If you're looking at just strictly political motivations, well, Trump nominated a woman, so they're, because you would assume that once a woman passes, if a woman doesn't replace it, you feel like, I'm sure the media will pick this up, but maybe it does feel like you're not being represented. Okay. If women make up 51% of the population, I'm not saying the Supreme Court needs to be 50% female, but I can see how it would feel like that. But yeah, sack up and just put a woman on there. They can't knock her down. And then it will be, once again, a suburban, because that was a battleground that Trump needed to win in 16, and he did. It was the housewives, basically white suburbia, the housewives that live there. Well, there's another demographic with a woman selected, or a woman, I don't think they're going to push through a Supreme Court nomination. I don't think they have enough time to actually get the process done and completed.
They got under 50 days.
Yeah, that'd be like record timing for Supreme Court. But there's no reason why Trump wouldn't have
a list or something ready.
Out of the 30 I have 3. These are my 3 picks. And then use those as advertisement. I will elect Supreme Court justices that follow the Constitution as it's written. I mean, it's going to be so many good perks from an election standpoint. Under the 100 days mark, it's perfect 2020 storytelling.
Yeah.
It hit all the ladder for Trump to be able to turn this into a nuclear missile if he spins it right, if their campaign's on top of it.
Yeah.
Not saying that they should do that, because it is, people dying sucks in general. But that woman, man, she had a rough couple years maybe on the way out. Her mind was always sharp, obviously, but she fell and she was in the hospital and surgeries, and she battled, man, and amazing woman. I don't know her legacy, like I said, but she has a hell of a legacy, and I don't know. I don't want to say it does her justice that there would be this thing to happen, but it is pretty incredible that she carried so much power in life that her death, will bring power with it.
Yeah.
It's like a beautiful tragedy in a way.
Yeah, and to be clear, I mean, we both rather the news was that she just retired. So again, we're not celebrating the fact that she's dead. It's sad that she's passed. I rather she just retired from the court, especially if, I would have liked it if she retired many years ago. But Donald Trump, one thing about his promises in the 2016 campaign for president, one thing he really followed through for that I liked was the Supreme Court picks, and the fact that he's got a chance to get another one. I'm not 100% on board with Donald Trump in 2020 as far as voting. I'm obviously not for Joe Biden either, but this kind of is one more reason to vote for him for me personally. I don't know if it sways you at all, or if you've pretty much made up your mind, but I know for me personally, this is. I'm not, again, I've said it many times, I'm not his biggest fan, but this would push me to voting for him a little bit closer.
Yeah, that was like one of the 5 positive things for him, right? It was like he wanted law and order. He was going to pick Supreme Court justices following Constitution, taxes, trade deals, rebuilding the military, the wall, immigration. Like that was his Special 7 or Lucky 10, whatever you want to call it, his full revolver for political battle. Yeah. Honestly, I agree with you. It's definitely a reason to lean towards him if you have any kind of slight belief in any half of the stuff in the Constitution. I'm already pulling Trump. The guy is an idiot and he says some dumb stuff, but I was undecided till election day. I voted literally at the voting booth in 16. I'm full confidence pulling him in 2020 just for things we break down here. The malicious media, his promises and stuff, the things that he has kept. There's been progress in my opinion. not perfect, but it doesn't mean I'm his diehard supporter, and I can't speak ill of him because I want I want it to be a conversation about it, obviously. But yeah, nabbing a third Supreme Court justice in your first term of presidency, or
that's
just
huge.
in general,
I don't know if that's
is not something that happens historically.
Yeah, I don't know if that's ever happened before. That's a lot of Supreme Court picks for one president.
Yeah.
Did you see? I don't remember exactly what it was, but somebody on the left said that if Trump nominates and they push through another Supreme Court pick, that there's going to be civil unrest, unlike
There's
the
not
civil unrest. No, yeah,
Yeah.
different civil unrest, different riots. There'll be more riots, I guess.
Why do they speak in hyperbole like they know it's going to happen with this utmost certainty? There will be riots. Like, first of all, there's already riots. But second, are you engineering riots and you can guarantee them? Like,
Yeah, they know.
it's so ridiculous. Like the whole government can rob you of your civil liberties unanimously, right? They all vote like, yeah, sure, do whatever. I don't care.
It'd be funny.
90% of them vote for that. But when it comes to fixing your economy or who should pay for what, it's gridlock and it's all this bullshit.
Yeah, it'd be funny if
they have us at each other's throats. It's ridiculous.
All the illicit things that the government does that they're not supposed to do. It'd be funny if the one thing people were riding over was something they're actually supposed to do.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, and we're so worried fighting over these issues that's like, they just blah blah blah, robbed you your civil liberties or insider trading or gave tax deals to the rich and raised taxes on the lower class, whatever it would be. Don't even get mad about that, but your issue on Supreme Court justices or police brutality, apparently you can dial up this machine that has Marxist roots. It's pretty startling.
Yeah. I don't mind. Bring the skateboards on. I'm not scared.
Yeah, man. Trump's been fighting on the ice the whole time, man. He might as well keep going. He might trip and fall a couple times, slip. He's gonna have his problems, but just pull the trigger. I mean, why wait, right? Like,
just do it.
Wait to just
do it.
Do it.
You're in office.
Do it. Use it politically.
You're allowed to. I say do it. And push them through in 40 whatever days before the election.
Record. Have 3
just rip them
Supreme
through.
Courts nominated and picked as justices in your first term of presidency, and then one was in record timing. That'd be such a Trump thing to do. Push it through.
It was the most tremendous Supreme Court picks, and I picked 3 of them. All of them are the best.
The quickest, least painful Supreme Court justice nomination ever.
What was that?
That is, I will do a can I spin cam?
Spin cam.
We have a podcast crasher.
Look at this. This is Ryan's studio.
Yeah, my studio is Mother Nature.
He's a lot more outdoorsy than I am. I don't think I'm not inside enough. I need to build a room inside of my room.
Yeah, you're trying. When I build an in-house studio, I'm just gonna put it next to a window. Like, what is wrong with this guy?
I have a window.
Do you know nothing of acoustics?
My window's back there, and then there's blinds on it. I don't even want the light. I have to have a light.
You look like
a little lighter
when you turn the light on.
We moved the studio slightly. I mean, we literally 90'd it, but I had to redo.
Bigger.
Yeah, I had to redo the sheet. I had to set my light up. I think the light's too bright. You can actually see me. It's not good. It's not good stuff. So obviously, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was the
nice segue.
Obviously, she was the biggest headline. Speaking of segues, but I think it's time for our really one and only segment, headlines.
Headlines.
I got some headlines. Is that cricket that's over there? We should spread a rumor that it knows some things about Hillary Clinton.
So we can kill it?
So she takes it out. That cricket is chirping.
It was in the last podcast.
But that cricket, I'm taking that cricket out. I'll sneak up on him and snap his
turn
neck.
my hose on and hose him out, man.
Ninja style.
Do you want me to take care of it? I can move.
No, you're all right. It's time. It's time for headlines. I like headlines. I'm a fan of the headlines segment. It's our only segment, but it's my favorite of the only
We
ones.
we gotta add the freaking SOS beep sound in there when you say
I'll
it.
see. I'll see if I can find that.
Yeah, it'd be
Uh,
sweet. Breaking.
Spotify. Spotify is reportedly fighting with employees about hosting episodes of Joe Rogan's podcast that some consider transphobic.
Whoa.
So, Joe Rogan, let's talk about Joe Rogan's transphobia. He doesn't want children to be converted to different sexes, genders. I don't remember what you're supposed to. It used to be called a sex change. I think that's a no-no. I think it's a gender.
Transitioning.
It's a
is not a
gender
word.
transitioning. I don't
Procedure.
know. I don't know.
Surgery.
They're concerned that he doesn't want children to switch around.
Yeah,
I
as
don't think
minors. God
I
forbid
don't
you
think
wait
he
till
said
they're 18.
anything else that was even
And he
remotely
doesn't think
transphobic.
men should be able to compete in women's sports without the other
That's
women agreeing
yeah.
to it. Like he doesn't think the records and stuff like there should be a different thing. It should be a different thing.
So here's something they don't talk about that they should talk about when it comes to men and women's sports. It's a good thing that there's separation in that, and what I mean by that is if there wasn't a separation, if there wasn't, women's soccer, women's basketball, I hate to say it, but women would not be competing at all. I mean, it's again, I don't want to sound like men are better than women at everything. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is men are built physically a little bit different than women are. And I'm not saying a professional women's basketball player wouldn't kick my ass at basketball. What I'm saying is they would look hilariously bad in comparison with LeBron James on the court. So when we're talking
physically
people,
and statistically.
yeah, when we're talking about people at the highest level competing against other people at the highest level, Ronda Rousey would knock me out in no time. Let's be clear. But she would have a tough fight against some of the other people in UFC. So, when we're talking about women's sports, if there wasn't separation, they wouldn't be competing professionally. They just wouldn't. There wouldn't be women in football. There wouldn't be women in basketball. There wouldn't be women in the NBA. I hate to say it, but it's just the truth.
It's kind of weird too. The party that focuses so heavily on gender and all of this, they're allowing women to be replaced, basically, statistically. And to back up your point even further about the difference between men and women at the 0.01% of population comparison to professional sports, Serena Williams, arguably one of the, if not the, one of the most physically built females on the planet, one of the best women athletes we have in America, in the world, and she is ranked number one in tennis and all this. But if you were to take her, just her stats, not even just her or what she can do or her work ethic, if you take her stats and put her next to college men's, she would be in like the mid 100s as far as ranking. Like she wouldn't even, her stats aren't even to get her into the professional realm of tennis.
Yeah.
She would be a college level male tennis player. And she is peak performance of
she's
women.
She's arguably the greatest women's tennis player of all time, and she wouldn't even rank in the mid 100s. Is that what it was? In college males, not even professional males.
Yeah, she'd be in the hundreds, like ranking, like one whatever. She would not even be in the bottom tier of professional men's, let alone the upper tier of college. And it has nothing to do sacrificing her, none of that aside. Just statistically, she'd get dwarfed. And that's what we would see in 20 more years. We'll see that. That will happen. There will be, hundreds of asterisks in women's records all over America for the rest of its existence. Was a former male.
Yeah, and the opposite of that, if like somebody was at the top of the world in men's MMA or something, if they switch over to women, they say they're a woman and they compete in women's MMA, a lot of women are going to get their ass kicked by a guy. And
that happened, and that was one of the reasons Joe. He's like, I had a different opinion when I seen that, But then somebody also was a biological male and got beat by a woman, but they knew, like the girls, the women, they didn't really know before that this dude used to be a guy, and then just comes in and beats the living shit out of all of them.
Yeah,
like they're not the same. I mean, why don't we have transgender sports? If we have Special Olympic sports, maybe there should just be a transgender division or something. Like,
Sure.
have them compete alone. Like, not saying that like a kid in high school or something, but college and when it comes to records, it should be their own. They should just have their own division. I mean, we have a Special Olympics. Why not have a transition Olympics?
I suspect the reason we don't have that is because
no one would watch it.
Well, didn't say that, Ryan.
It kind of sounds like WNBA.
Sensitive,
my friend.
Sensitive.
Sponsorships are so low. Yeah, because nobody watches women play basketball. I'm sorry.
I was going to say because a very small population of the United States is transgender. It's a very, very small amount. We talk about it like it's a large. It's less than %. I mean, it's way less than 1%.
So we let them replace all statistics because they're so small of a group?
Well, I'm just saying the league would be so small. I mean, you'd have 50 people. I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm not saying
5 athletes.
50. Yeah, but out of the transgendered people, then you have the small. I don't know, however many of them are into sports enough to join a league. You know what I mean? It would be such a small thing. But I think it's back to headlines. We talked about the political football last time. And I mentioned that I didn't like Colin Kaepernick kneeing, but I kind of liked where the NFL was going with this because it seemed like it was more productive, like more things were happening. To that extent, the Denver Broncos had successfully pushed a police reform bill through Colorado legislature, using their voices to lobby politicians and lawmakers. Bill SB 20-217 called for accountability and integrity in law enforcement and passed by a vote of 52-13. So not just kneeing and pissing off people, but actually passing legislation and making a difference.
Congratulations, Denver Broncos.
That's a good thing.
Hopefully it's a good bill and some good comes of it.
Yeah, I hope so. I think it's a...
Was there any more breakdown on the Spotify thing with Rogan? Because I know you referenced the headline, but we didn't really talk about what that means. Are they? No, it was just kind of a nab it.
Basically,
it's going to be a huge deal to him and Spotify.
Yeah, so basically, employees of Spotify aren't thrilled with the fact that Joe Rogan, is transphobic, which I don't think he's transphobic. Headlines: TikTok. What the shit is that? What is going on?
It's a busy day at
the office.
At the office here, man. I mean, people are moving.
That sounded like...
It's a garbage can.
It sounded like Stomp. Do you know what Stomp is?
No.
No, it's like people... It was like a Broadway thing. They made sounds with like trash cans and everyday items.
Okay.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like garbage cans. I'm not negative on the arts. I just think Stomp sucks.
Unlike this podcast, which does not sound like garbage.
Which is not garbage. This is high quality material. Headlines. TikTok. Did you hear about the TikTok ban? The official ban?
Yeah, it's got to happen by the end of the month, right? TikTok deal is done. Has to be
done deal.
Got to be taken care of. And apparently, I think it's like not Oracle is the name of it, but there's already companies. I believe it's owned by Microsoft. Is making a bid to buy it.
Sure. I don't know if we talked about TikTok too much in the past. Let me separate two things here. TikTok, first of all, it sucks. It's the dumbest thing ever. With that being said, and I'm not just saying that because I can't dance. Relax. TikTok ban. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't think it's. I don't think government has the power to do so. And I'm not saying one government is better than the other, but the fact that the federal government invades pretty much every ounce of our things like Facebook and Google, and somehow that's fine, but TikTok's got to go. How about we be consistent? If TikTok's got to go, how about you stay out of everything too, federal government?
It's a great point. Well, speaking of Joe Rogan, I'll tie him to this. He had Edward Snowden on I think it was last week, and Snowden actually breaks down something very similar to that. that
Mhm.
just about how all these companies go about getting our mass metadata and what it means and why it's so important. So, yeah, I mean, I know why they're going after them because it's obviously the communist Chinese, and maybe we should go after them, or I don't really know. But yeah, I agree. It is kind of hypocritical. Like, yeah, you're not allowed to spy on us because you're owned by the Chinese government, but if it's got an American flag on it, it makes it okay and moral. So
Yeah.
it's kind of, but
There
yeah, I
has to
don't
be a
know.
way to go after the Chinese that doesn't hurt individual freedoms of Americans. I mean, because when you look
Well,
at two of the items, the TikTok ban. Again, I'm not a TikTok person. I don't really care, but it's just from the standpoint of individual liberty. I think it's a bad move. And then when you look at like the tariffs, I mean, the tariffs just are there's just cost that gets passed on to the American consumer.
well, I saw a headline myself that spoke about how North Korea funnels their money through United States banks, and they basically
Oh,
have help from China, and they
yeah,
have a way to wash their money so that they can use it at the international level.
headlines. Speaking of individual liberties, I might have an unpopular opinion about this, but rapists will be surgically castrated, and anyone who rapes a child will face the death penalty under new laws in Nigerian state.
Whoa.
They're not effing around would be the correct way to say it on a podcast.
I would like to take cruel and unusual punishment for $100, please. What doesn't that violate like human rights though? Like, can you forcibly castrate
Yes.
somebody?
Well, not in Nigeria you can.
Yeah,
So yeah,
must be one of the shithole countries Trump always talks about.
I'm gonna assume this is an unpopular opinion, and obviously I hate rapists and I hate child rapists even more so. But the government can't have that kind of power. That's just something that shouldn't happen. And I get it. Trust me, when I see stories like that, especially rape and child rape, uh, I wish the worst on them. I certainly do. Maybe one day they step out of the court and just get hit by a bus or something. That's fine. That's cool.
So you're
You know,
against corporal punishment overall for any crime?
I, so one of the things I've always kind of gone back and forth on is the death penalty, and I have somewhere settled on. I'm not super strong on this belief, but I have settled on the idea that I don't believe in the death penalty. And it stems from two reasons. One, I don't like the idea of the federal government having that kind of power. And two, courts get it wrong sometimes. I mean, think of all the people who have been misidentified as a rapist, or just simple accusations just ruin people's careers. I mean, I think if you're going to have something like this, you better be damn sure that you got the right person. And they get it wrong all the time. I mean, people are in jail, wrongly identified as people who they weren't supposed to be, or they lose cases that maybe they're innocent. Innocent people get locked up all the time. So that's bad enough. I certainly don't want innocent people losing their lives or, being castrated.
Yeah, that's a pretty intense law.
Yeah.
That's
And
a
again,
intense law.
I hate rapists, obviously. So if I wish them the worst, but I think that's too much power for a government. Headlines. This is a weird one. Not really political, but this is something that I read and went, what? Did you see this? Paris Hilton revealed that her whole dumb blonde thing was totally made up. She's actually a very intelligent, successful
Wow.
businesswoman.
No way.
Yeah.
Hey Dave, punch in her net worth and then tell me if she's a successful business person or not. Did that need to be said? I was just joking, but does that need to be said though?
She clearly felt it needed to be said. Her whole voice and everything was like totally fake. Like it was just a
good
character.
acting.
Yeah, she was very good at it apparently.
Yeah, the Kardashians, people make fun of them. They're worth billions of dollars. Like how are you trash talking that? They're super hyper successful. They have a brand recognition and personality that are on like very few people achieve that level. And we're calling these people dumb.
Yeah, I think what we do sometimes is we confuse people we hate for dumb. I think the left does that with Donald Trump a lot. Donald Trump is not an idiot.
No, you don't make $4 billion.
We don't know how much he
stupid.
made. He won't release his tax returns, Ryan.
Doesn't matter. Does it really matter?
No.
I don't see Nancy Pelosi's tax returns. She's worth $1 million or better. She has a very rich husband.
Don't worry about her tax returns.
I'm sure he lives in Nevada, so he can pay less income tax too.
Probably. That's all I got for headlines. Do you have headlines?
I do have a couple headlines.
All right, you got to go like this. Ready? Before you read, you got to go headlines.
All right, I'll try my best.
Let's hear your best impression.
Headlines. All right, I'm going to start off with a dumb one and then a soft one that might get you a little upset. I got a couple in here, but Washington Post article. Devastating wildfires spark climate debate. There's been wildfires in California for however long. One of them was set off apparently by somebody who was celebrating a gender party, which we should probably settle down now, people. But regardless of it, fires have been happening in California forever. Climate change, I think, is a separate talk about anything when even the California government admits that they have jacked up their conservation. And, yeah, maybe they need to do something better at the state level to mitigate forest fires. And if the people that lit the fire was for a gender party, should probably stop gender parties.
So, I know this was supposed to be about climate change and wildfires, but I want to talk about gender parties real quick. I, for the longest time, absolutely hated gender reveal parties. But now that it triggers the left, I kind of like them. Just for the simple fact it pisses people off. Who was it who came out? I'm sure there were multiple people.
Such a Sour Patch Kid, man.
I'm sure there were multiple people, but I think AOC came out and... Was it AOC? Somebody came out and said they need to stop because they haven't picked their genders yet. Maybe it wasn't AOC. It might have been somebody else. Somebody came out and basically said that the gender parties are crazy. Oh, no. I know who it was. I think it was, is it Trevor Noah? Who's the new host of The Daily Show? New host.
Yeah, sounds right. They took over for Jon Stewart.
Yeah, this is like 10 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoever, yeah, I think it was him. But he said that then we need to stop gender reveal parties because they aren't old enough to pick their genders yet. Shut up. That's all. That's my only rebuttal.
Okay, let's personalize this gender reveal stuff. Did you guys find out the sex of your child before he was born?
Yes.
Before they were born.
Yeah.
We did not, and I encourage everybody to do it. It's the greatest joy ever, not knowing what your kid is the whole time, and then you find out on emergency day.
No, you don't. No, you're not being progressive. You don't find out until they tell you what their gender is. Ryan.
I'm sorry, I don't wait that long.
You're going to get us in trouble. We're going to have to shut down the whole podcast.
Hey, it hasn't stopped them from censoring our ads before. I'm not stopping now.
They flat out didn't run our last one.
What, the ad?
Yeah, they said no. I submitted appeals and stuff. I made changes. They said no, we're not doing it. I think it was your segue at the beginning.
It's a great segue.
It was a bad segue. It wasn't even offensive.
It can't be offensive when it was factual, though, which is the best part of that whole thing.
No, that's not true. If it's anything I've learned from the left, is that facts can be offensive.
I'm going to write down a little note because I want to come back to that.
Offensive facts or?
No, just the way the media and politicians play into each other.
Offensive facts should have been our show our title for our show, but.
All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
Headlines. New Jersey woman with Alzheimer's loses house for 6 cents in back taxes.
6 cents.
6 cents.
She owed 6 cents. They took her house.
It's a legit. Her daughter got involved because her mom's like, "What's going on?" Alzheimer's, can't remember anything. Yeah, it was a $300 fine, all said and done, with interest and everything else and late fees. 6 cents in taxes turned into $300. New Jersey, what would the people do without you?
Well, they'd have houses for start.
I got another headline here. Speaking of New Jersey, apparently people thought there was a UFO in New Jersey.
Well, they didn't. To be clear, they didn't think there was. There was one in New Jersey.
What, a UFO?
Mm-hmm.
It was a blimp, David. It was a blimp.
Well, there was a Goodyear blimp, but there was probably also a UFO because they do exist.
Yeah, those humanitarian, vegetarian aliens.
Conspiracy cast.
Kanye West made awesome headline breaking news this week by pissing on his Grammy.
He did what?
Pissed on his Grammy. Put it in the toilet, pissed on it. My favorite part about it, though, is in the foreground you can see his sneakers, which are those new shoes that he was releasing.
The Yeezys.
Still product placement, my friend. Can't call these people stupid, man. Like, I want those shoes that Kanye had.
That Kanye was pissing on Grammys?
Pissing on Grammys. He's going at war with the record industry about record deals and how they're basically slaves to the record industry and how the record industry double dips and triple dips off all your profits.
Well, then
which is why they want to shut down and control and mitigate independent content creators with I'll even go a step further. I don't know if you know who Joe Budden is.
Joe Budden? Is that the Pump It Up dude from like 20 years ago?
He is.
Good Lord.
He hasn't rapped in about 10 years, but he runs a very successful hip-hop
To be clear, he didn't rap 20 years ago either.
He runs a very successful hip-hop podcast, and he had a falling out with Spotify because he did not feel he was getting his full he didn't feel the deal was right. They tried to offer him a shit ton of money, but they wanted to own his podcast. They wanted to own everything that the podcast did. If they did something independent, podcast wanted them to own. They wanted to own that too. And he's like, no, I can't. It was more money than he's ever seen in his entire life. He's like, I can't do it.
The rumor was the original plan, the original contract talk with Rogan was about podcast ownership, and he left. He said, no chance in hell. And they totally restructured. They said, fine, we'll submit another offer because they wanted him bad. So, Rogan won that one. He got tons of money, and he still owns his content.
Yeah, I read a thing before the Spotify deal that he was like making like 15 to 30 grand an episode.
Probably, because he has almost 10 million followers on YouTube.
You know, every podcast is anywhere between, almost 1 million to over 1 million streams. You know, his most popular ones have 30 and 50 million views, like just on YouTube. Yeah, he's got 7 streams of income for sure, just coming off that podcast.
Well, not to mention the fact that he could literally stop doing podcasts and he'd still be fine, because he still could get his comedy specials on Netflix. He still could do his UFC calls. This dude has so much different flow of income, and he's like at the top of everything he does. Like, I'm not saying he's like the best comedian in the world or anything, but like he's a good comedian. He's highly recognized. But I'm not saying he obviously wasn't great as a UFC fighter or whatever. He's good in his own right. He wasn't good enough to be at that level, but he's damn good at being an announcer for the UFC or being a face for the UFC.
Yeah, for sure. And he loves everything he does. He loves too. It's not like
he must, because he's got to be. Yeah, he's got to be tired.
Full disclosure to the listeners, I don't know if I've ever said this publicly here. I've been influenced heavily by Joe Rogan. I respect him heavily, and he's one of my main podcasts that I consume. And I don't go to him as a god to get all this awesome information or anything, and just always believe him. But he's been a heavy influence on me. I've podcasted a little bit before I actually started listening to him, but the guy's awesome, and I'm glad people like him are independent content creators that love their job and can put out content and not be chained by these industries. And that's why Kanye West was fighting out against it, because it's their bullshit. They're taking ownership.
Is it a fair assumption that Kanye West is the only presidential candidate to ever piss on a Grammy?
Yes, that is true. Just like Donald Trump is the only United States president to hold a UFC, a WWE belt. So,
Speaking of presidents and Joe Rogan, this is actually a good segue because it's about presidents and Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan offered to have, Joe Rogan offered to have people on his people, just people, Joe Biden and Donald Trump on his podcast for a debate.
Yeah, we have a guest coming on that was also going to reference some of this stuff because he was very interested in it himself. But yeah, it's pretty crazy, huh? That the independent media is now becoming the mainstream media, and we're seeing it in real time, and we're seeing how politicians and other media sources. I shared it on my Instagram. But Joe Rogan was taking heat from some person on like The View or something because he's a misogynistic and basically called him a racist, misogynistic man. But yeah, it's amazing what happens when you're replacing the dying media.
She said
and they go through.
Someone said Joe Rogan was racist and misogynistic.
Yeah, I shared it on my Instagram.
Joe Rogan, who literally did comedy tours with Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, like the black guy.
Does Dave
black guy?
Does Dave Chappelle know that Joe Rogan's racist?
I think they refer to him because Joe Rogan has talked about the use of the N-word, which is super controversial. God forbid you have a conversation about it. But yeah, it's just all the selective editing or deep fakes or whatever they can put together and hobble together to run you through the mainstream media machine, the washer machine, and whatever comes out, it's going to affect your public opinion. You know, no retractions, no nothing. You know, like he doesn't care, but I don't think he should sue. But something should be done. Like they shouldn't just be able to just tarnish your character like this and get away with it.
Well,
but that's why I think the old media is dying. You know,
they can't dying. Really. I mean,
and I mean by dying, not necessarily that CBS is going to close down forever. But what I mean by that is people are going to different sources because we don't like what you're selling us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been made. So it's been made perfectly clear. I mean, if you look at the ratings, I mean, they're not being journalists, and at the same time, they're plummeting in the ratings. And when I say they, I mean pretty much all of the mainstream media. So, it's interesting. What's keeping them afloat?
It's almost like the politicians feed right into the media.
Conspiracy cast.
At some point, it has to happen. Now, I'm not saying that like Nancy Pelosi is meeting at 2 a.m, like, how will we get them today? You know, like laughing and cackling.
Yeah.
You know, mixing up this shit in a pot. But, yeah, dude, I mean, just look at her response to when she got caught with the whole mask I was set up. Like, how are you able to spin something like this? And the media will just print 100 papers talking about how Nancy says she was set up. You know, like the way that they can direct narratives and like influence people is ridiculous. Yeah. But it's fed. One hand washes the other. You know, they're making millions off ratings and advertisement revenue, and the politicians are getting their 30 seconds that they need to sway you for your vote.
I don't like Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, I don't either.
That's all I have to say to that.
I have another headline that was pretty shocking. 63% headlines. 63% of U.S. adults didn't know that 6 million Jews died during the Holocaust, were murdered during the Holocaust.
That can't possibly be true.
Sure can.
63%?
63%.
Not 6.3, which would already be an astonishingly high number. 63%.
6.3. I saw one similar that said nearly half of the UK did not know that many people perished during the Holocaust as well.
How is that possible?
Especially when we spend more on public education than we ever have in our life.
Yes. Yeah, it's almost like a theme. Like, no matter how much money the government spends, you don't get results. Like the war on poverty.
Yeah, still fighting that war. War on terror worked well, too.
War on terror. War on drugs. Public education. Seems like government is really bad at making things work.
Especially war. Yeah, could you imagine the military if they were to handle food stamps? Go, 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 go. They'd be shooting crackers and cheese with barrels through your front windows. Delivery's up. You got 30 seconds to be downstairs. We're burning gas. 63% of adults didn't know about the Holocaust death numbers, which honestly, I'm not surprised at. The average person doesn't know history, let alone what numbers mean and comparisons. And I'm sure if you were to ask people what year America was founded, they wouldn't. I bet you 63% of adults wouldn't know that either. So it doesn't surprise me. It's just a highlight of why we need better education, or we need some kind of platform to give people what they need for information as far as historical context. And that's why I think it's so easy to say the world's shit, is because you don't have a historical lens of the past to realize how good we actually have it.
So I don't disagree
that
people aren't they don't have a real good grasp on history, but this isn't like some minute historical detail. It's not like we're talking about the 63% of Americans didn't know the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand caused World War One. It's like
that one too, though. I'd believe that one too, though.
I would believe that. What I don't believe is that 63% don't know the Holocaust happened. How is that possible?
They didn't know that 6 million Jews died.
So they knew the Holocaust. They knew the Holocaust. They knew the Holocaust happened, but
they asked them how many Jews died during the Holocaust. And then
the response.
If they didn't know, could you imagine realizing 100,000 would be 6 million, and then watch these people realize thinking about 6 million people, holy fuck.
It's a lot of people. It's most of New York City. Just to put it in context.
Are you insinuating something?
Most people in New York City are Jewish.
There's enough Jewish delis there, that's for sure.
We're getting shut down.
So shut down. Okay, so that's that headline. I had another headline. I wanted to actually break it down a little bit, but I think we can just do it quickly after the headline. Ben Shapiro of the Daily Wire and him and his whole organization are leaving California for Nashville, Tennessee, and he says explicitly because the state is ran like crap. Elon Musk may be leaving as well. Elon Musk may be leaving as well, so I don't know if he's going to pack up Tesla, but I'm sure he's getting out of there too.
Well, he did decide to build his new factory in Texas instead of California. I know that much.
Figuratively and literally, the state's on fire. So I believe in too. And then I have another headline here. Breonna Taylor, there was a settlement for that, so apparently her family's getting a bunch of money. I don't know anything about other than that. I thought it would be good to reference the BLM of the week. I think
Is that enough?
Is that enough? What? Giving her money?
Is that going to make people feel better about the situation? It shouldn't, right? In theory.
I don't know. They say you can't put money on lives. The NFL, I know we kind of touched on them a little bit, but apparently their ratings are down. I wanted to get your opinion. Do you think it's just because it's election year, or do you think people are becoming more and more disinterested with the increase in political content on sports? Because all sports ratings are down.
I think the fair weather fans, not the hardcore NFL people like myself, I think the average viewer of the NFL doesn't want to care about politics. So I think that definitely plays a huge role. And we got to remember, the NFL ratings are down in a time when people can't go to games. So that's a double whammy. You got 80,000 people in some of these games that can't go, that should be home watching the game, but they're turning it off.
Yeah.
So it's actually worse than people think it is.
Yeah. The UAE peace deal is changing the course of history, as quoted by our president. It's the new Middle East, he also said. Apparently, there may be up to 9 more countries joining the UAE deal and are saying that Israel's a state. And, that's a good news. That's a good headline. Once again, we spoke about it a little last week on this podcast. People don't understand the historical lens of how important it is. They're just focusing on that it was done under the Trump administration, and they don't care about it.
So I find it fascinating that, again, we talked about Trump got nominated for peace prizes for this. If he doesn't win a Nobel Peace Prize for literally beginning the talks of peace in the Middle East, what? It's got to be, at that point, it's 100% political, right? I mean, this is literal peace being created through legislation in a way. and we're going to give no credit.
Yep. And they're having these people at the White House. They sign the deals. They sign them in. They signed like 4 different ones. They were in 2 different types of Arabic, English, and then another language. Like Israeli or something. So
Hebrew.
Hebrew. Thank you. Yeah, and on the wall in Jerusalem, they flew flags on there. They had images of the flags of the countries. Like, this is actual peace. This isn't just like paper peace. They're promoting it all over the countries. Like, this is a huge thing, and we just have terrible foreign news media apparently. Or this.
I saw pretty much every country in the Middle East except Iran is going to sign on to this.
That's beautiful. Make it easier to take out Iran. I don't know how that country's still operating. We should have took them out a long time ago. Listen to me being a colonialist. But yeah, dude, that's awesome.
Just want their oil.
I mean, yeah, we spoke about 9/11 last week, which obviously hyperimposed us in that region for the duration we've been there. It's made things twice as political. But yeah, this is a legit peace deal. Congratulations to the countries and to Donald Trump's administration. Another pin to wear on his chest for November this year, for sure. I have another headline here. Oil demand is collapsing, the demand for it. So probably between the pandemic, there was also oil wars earlier this year between Russia and China trying to drive down the prices of our oil because now that we are a leading exporter of oil, we're a leading exporter of to other countries for the first time in our history in a while. It's messing up prices all over the place. They're able to get our oil, or we're able to be competitive in markets. So I think this is, I don't want to spend, too much speculation, but is that a proof we're in a recession long term? Like, oil is the lifeblood of this country to a greater extent, natural gas as well. So yeah, just, oil is probably going to go down in price. Demand collapses. It's going to get cheaper. The oil, it was already negative at one time during this year. There was a negative trading rate on oil.
When the pandemic first hit, you were
Yeah, and even before the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was the time to invest in oil.
They had an indoor Trump rally. I didn't spend too much time on actually looking this up. I just caught the headline, but it faced criticism, and I'm assuming because a lot of people were gathered without masks and everything else, which is something we've spoke about for the entire time we filmed this podcast about masks and how we feel about them. But yeah, they're asked. I mean, anytime Trump holds these events, he's just giving them free ammo to play with, as far as like making the spin. But I will say, we can kind of break this down a little bit. The CDC came out this past week and said that masks are better than vaccines.
Interesting.
So why
I'm assuming
America not opening then? If you're saying masks are better than vaccines, why is it still being talked about in the media? If we're saying that masks are better than vaccines, why is America not back to normal?
Well, I think that's a great question. And the other question is, if masks are better than vaccines, does that mean when vaccines come out, we're still not opening? What would, at that point, then, what would cause us to open up the economy?
Yeah, do you remember this all started to flatten the curve for the hospitals? That was 6 months ago. They said it was a 2-week thing. 6 months ago. This is what erosion of liberty looks like.
Yeah,
God forbid you go outside without a mask on. Shut down whole areas.
I'm trying to remember it, but it was so long ago.
Yeah, so if you're saying that masks are better than vaccines, why are we talking about vaccines on the political stage then? Because obviously information has changed nearly since day one with this virus, and it will for probably another year at least. But with that being said, I mean, if they're saying this now, currently, then all of the questions of vaccines in the media, because they've been going back and forth the last week about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris wouldn't trust it, because it came from the Trump. They would trust the doctors. And Trump said, we're going to have a vaccine by the end of the year. Fauci's saying that's impossible. There's this. They're talking about how they're slashing red tape. There's all this like political banter tied up in this huge debate on vaccines. And they come out and say masks are better than it. And everybody has to wear a mask. So let's open America. Let's open everything back up. Forget, we'll do our social distancing. We'll let restaurants open full capacity. Just get it done. We need to turn the economy back on. I don't know why people are so weak-willed about this. It's just funny to me. We've been in a pandemic for months. We faced recessions as countries before. We didn't shut down everybody, tell them to stay home. We didn't have 60% of local businesses that were closing during the COVID crisis to never reopen. We've never had this before. We're willingly doing it. And we have all this science and we have all this information on how to battle this disease and who it affects and how it affects everybody. And we're prepared. We have equipment. We have international help. We give open up the economy, open up these towns and businesses and villages. Trust in the American people and just trust in the American people that they can do the right thing. Because I know they will. I know people that if they have to open their business and their livelihood depends on it, they're going to do all the steps they have to not get people sick. I know that will happen.
Yeah.
And that's really what, I don't want to put it this way because we talk about trying to compromise with people, but it's really been a division in the party for the last few years. It's like, do you believe in the individual or do you believe that there has to be a control mechanism to make things happen, like from the government? Like their solution's bigger government. Our solution is empower the individual. So that's the sides of the fences. And, it just seems that it's growing. It's grown under COVID. People just want the government's help. They want the government bailout. And, we need to open up and get back to where we were.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
Success brings unity. So the Trump town hall happened. I don't know if you want to touch base on that or how much you watched. I didn't give it too much time because I knew it was going to be. But the president got kind of lit up on that stage. He got a couple questions that he kind of beat around the bush. And, he didn't do a very good job. And he almost looked high, man. He was all glossy-eyed and stuff, which I thought was hilarious. So,
I did not watch the town hall.
George Stephanopoulos was the commentator for it. But
no, I didn't watch it.
You
know what I will watch? I will watch a debate. I would watch a debate. They need to put a debate on.
I'm itching for a debate, dude.
But we need at least 3, and we're running out of time.
There was a police shooting in Pennsylvania this past week. The guy was crazy. He was on PCP or something, if I'm not mistaken, and the police shot and killed him. That's all we had in the spin cycle for a couple days, and then when the facts came out, they released the body cam footage and stuff, and the news climbed off of it. So I just bring it up quick to prove that there's propaganda every day, and if you're not aware of it or how it works, you'll get sucked up into it. Was
that in Philly, in the Philly area?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I saw about that.
Yeah, but dominated the news cycle for like 2 days. They drew their narrative, they drew their content that they needed, they put the scare out there, they were polarizing the police brutality movement, and then they released the body cam footage. Like,
it's because
the guy was on drugs, running right at a cop with a knife. So
we've talked about this before, but it's because they didn't wait for the facts to come out. It is the least journalistic thing you could possibly do.
Yep. All right, this has been Dave and Ryan from December 1773. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, share the video. Make sure you subscribe to Facebook and YouTube to become part of December Nation.
Sounds good.
See you next week.
See you next week. And stay tuned for our other episode. It's not the weekly show.
This week.
It's not the weekly show, but it's just a show. We're just gonna have fun. We're gonna talk with Ben.
You too. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.